In the heart of a forgotten forest, a village stood, abandoned by time and swallowed by silence. The air was heavy, thick with an unnatural stillness that seemed to seep into the bones. No birds flew overhead, and no rustle of animal life could be heard. It was as though nature itself dared not touch the place. Rumors spoke of spirits trapped within the crumbling houses, restless and waiting for something unknown. They said the village was a grave, alive with whispers and echoes that called out to the living. That night, a group of young adventurers, Kara, Max, Lee, and Sophia, stood at the village's edge, their flashlights piercing the dark. The wind was sharp, cold as it swept through the cracked buildings, making the ancient wood groan and creak as if in agony. The whisper started as faint murmurs like voices carried on the breeze, teasing them to venture further. Ignoring the gnawing unease that clawed at their hearts, they stepped into the shadowy streets. The gravel crunched beneath their boots, and every step felt heavy, as if the ground itself were resisting their intrusion. The further they walked, the louder the whispers became, growing in intensity until they felt as though 1,000 voices were murmuring just out of reach. They entered the main square where once a statue stood, now reduced to rubble. The dark sky loomed over them, impossibly black, and a cold wind whispered past, carrying with it a scent of decay. Kara glanced at Max, who nodded, trying to hide the fear in his eyes. But before they could speak, the silence split open with a low, resonant thud. The echoes began. Footsteps, hesitant but heavy, sounded from behind them. They spun around, hearts racing, but there was no one there. Yet the sound grew louder, coming from all directions, as if an unseen crowd surrounded them. Panic clawed at their throats as they exchanged wide-eyed glances. The echoes began to coalesce into voices, whispering names, soft and haunting. Lee, Kara. A chill washed over Sophia as a shadow swept across her, yet when she turned, nothing but the darkness met her gaze. The whispers rose, clearer now, turning into cries, pleading and desperate. One by one the group heard it. Faint laughter, a child's giggle, followed by a chorus of moans, the sounds of anguish and desperation tangled together in a symphony of terror. A figure emerged from the darkness. She was pale as bone, with hollow eyes that seemed to devour the light. Her hair was wild, streaked with dirt and matted with blood. She raised a hand, fingers outstretched, as though reaching for something long lost. Her mouth twisted into an impossible smile, broken and jagged. Before they could scream, she whispered, "Come with me." Max staggered backward, heart hammering against his ribs, but a force unseen pulled him forward, and he found himself moving toward the figure. His feet no longer his own. Kara screamed his name, but the sound was swallowed by the rising din. The village trembled, the ground shuddering with a deep, resonant thrum. The houses around them creaked, doors slamming open and shut as if some unseen force was waking within. The figure disappeared, leaving only the echoes. But their absence was not a relief. The echoes had become something more, something that surrounded them with the breath of 1,000 lost souls. They could hear their own names, twisted and deformed, calling from unseen mouths. "Run!" Lee shouted, but the whispers gripped him, pulling him back as if the village itself had a hold on his soul. The adventurers tried to flee, but the road ahead was no longer a road. It was a tunnel of darkness, walls pressing in, choking them with fear. The whispers intensified, turning into screams that cut into their sanity. The ground cracked open, revealing deep, unending blackness. The last thing they saw before being swallowed by the darkness was the woman's pale face, her eyes wide and filled with an unbearable sorrow. The echoes followed them, an endless chorus of the undead, and the village grew silent once more, waiting for the next adventurers to lose themselves in its unending night.